Formed in the early 90s, Cold Chamber was a band that played urgent and aggressive music draped in heavy stage makeup, piercings, and black fetish clothing. As an up and coming nu metal act, the band showed that simplicity and heaviness went hand in hand, and dominated the scene with a darker, more evil approach compared to what other bands were doing. Releasing 4 albums in total, one being gold and the others being, well, pretty damn close, they proved that they weren't a one-hit wonder. When asked what the band name represents in an interview with Lollipop magazine, guitarist Miguel Rascon would state, "It's a cold, dark place. It fits the imagery of our music. Potential energy, heavy, under great pressure," he'd say. Judging by their appearance, you'd expect a pretty dark, brooding band, but Cold Chamber's music actually emitted nuances of hope and optimism, while also promoting individuality. By the time their 3rd album was released, there was speculation that the band would never perform together again, although they would reunite for their 4th and most recent album in 2015. Today, let's explore whatever happened to the band Cold Chamber. Cold Chamber frontman Dez Fafara would be born in Santa Barbara, California, and raised in Los Angeles. He grew up as an outcast, telling the LA Times, "I was that kid that gets thrown in the trash can at lunch, but I came out on top." He would draw inspiration from a range of artists, including The Cure and Motley Crue, recalling to the LA Times, "I had Nikki Sixx all over my walls. I remember my mom tweaking out and taking his posters down. I just liked the whole look of that band and the heaviness of it," he'd recall. In 1992, ahead of Cold Chamber's inception, Fafara and guitarist Miguel Rascon, better known as Meegs, formed the band She's in Pain, who was influenced by gothic rock and would help shape part of the band's sound early on. Within the next several years, the roots of Cold Chamber would be solidified once the members found each other through the newspaper The Recycler. Meegs would recall to Schecter Guitars, "I think we all hated each other from the start when we found each other in The Recycler, but it was the music that kept us together." When we hear about the evolution of popular music, there appears to be the period in the 80s and early 90s when hair metal was popular, and then alternative rock took over for several years, but against the backdrop of this transition, there was a burgeoning scene in Los Angeles where 2 genres cross-pollinated with hip-hop, which initiated the birth of nu metal. Dez would tell Metal Hammer about coming up amidst this transition, saying, "The scene was relatively dead. We were coming out after the hair metal thing was done and killed off, but there was a sense that something new was forming amongst the bands at the time. Up in LA, there were the Deftones, Cold Chamber, and later on System of a Down. I'm the one who found Static X when they were playing in front of 15 people. We would all go to shows every single night and play with each other and create this new scene together." He would add, "Clubs started to pack out again. One by one, we all got signed. We were there the night the Deftones got signed. A limo rolled up and Madonna rolled through. We were like, holy shit, this thing's on fire. The next one to get signed may have been Korn, then us, and then System." While the emerging bands from the area would soon be slapped with a nu metal tag, they each had their own set of influences. But like the scene before it, nu metal suffered the same fate. A few bands in the scene got huge, record labels went on a signing frenzy, and the public's taste moved on with the times. Eventually, even the term nu metal became resented by the bands it was meant to describe. Dez would tell Louder Sound, "The same thing kind of happened with nu metal. My guitar player Meegs said it best. Nu metal was a great term until the second wave of bands came in, and we all got put into that nu metal thing. At the time, even amongst us, it became a dirty word. Right now, they call Devil Driver groove metal, and there aren't many other bands that get called that," he'd say. Cold Chamber would come together in mid-1994 playing gigs in Los Angeles and nearby Orange County. By 1995, they recorded some demos and caught the attention of producer Ross Robinson and Fear Factory's Dino Cazares, who connected the group with metal label Roadrunner Records. The band went on to become part of a new Hollywood uprising, taking over the Sunset Strip, alongside bands like Korn, Spineshank, Fear Factory, and Snot. Side note guys, I've done a whole video on Snot's career, the link is down below. Following Cold Chamber's signing to Roadrunner, Dez temporarily left the group to spend more time with his wife, but half a year later he rejoined the band and his marriage ended in divorce. He reflected on his decision telling Lollipop magazine, "I strongly recommend against giving up what's most important to you to please someone else in your life, and if you do, don't descend into drugs and alcohol so deep that no one can pull you back out." A knock came on the door from Miguel, and that probably saved my life, he'd say. It was towards the end of 1995 that the band was able to continue their deal with Roadrunner, and things started to look up. Once Sharon Osbourne, the wife of rock icon Ozzy Osbourne, stepped in as their manager, Cold Chamber soon took part in the very first Ozfest in 1996, which helped raise their profile considerably. By February of 1997, Coal Chamber released their self-titled debut album on Roadrunner, introducing touches of the hip-hop and metal sound that was making the rounds in the scene. Their debut album would go gold, moving over 500,000 copies, and Dez would talk to Maximum Inc. about how the band defined their music, saying, "We call ourselves Spooky Core. I guess that's because there's so many down-tuned bands from LA, and we had come up with something to differentiate ourselves from those bands, so we came up with Spooky Core," he'd say. Featured on the band's debut album would be the song Loco, giving the band their best-known song. On the group's sophomore record, Chamber Music, released in September of 1999, Coal Chamber veered away from the rap element of their sound and opted for more open-ended melodic direction, with Dez telling the LA Times, "Just be yourself. People who feel life through the way they look are living life so much more fuller than most people. They're not afraid to show what's on the inside through the outside. I always trust someone who's tattooed and pierced over some guy in a suit," he'd say. Dez would continue to be mindful of the change in the band's approach, telling the same newspaper, "Kids want to talk about things and kids want to party. Those two entities exist within them. It's up to you to bring it out in them. You can hand them a beer or you can hand them a thought. I heard one singer on MTV say, 'I don't have responsibility. Since when has rock been responsible?' And I just thought, when has it not? But I think people take it different ways. I feel I have a responsibility. If I'm going to touch 500,000 people, I might as well give them something other than F you," he'd say. That's not to say that the band abstained from typical rock and roll excess. All the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, all that exists on tour. I tend to sit in the back of the bus with candles just writing. I stay away from all those things now because I sucked myself into them the past 2 years, and I've done it all, he'd say. Dez's journey to live a more simple life would come at a heavy price. As part of getting divorced, his brother would die from AIDS, and Coal Chamber's bus driver would pass away due to a heart attack. He would tell the LA Times, "I think everything that happened has made me see life as life. It can be taken away from you, and every minute is precious," he'd say. Dez would acknowledge that kids by the late 90s faced a lot more difficulties than himself in their childhood. This was often referenced in nu metal music, which included anecdotes of violence at school and places of worship. And honestly, if you look at what's going on in the world right now, people are growing accustomed to cutting off their close friendships and relationships just because of differing opinions. But Dez's words of wisdom still resonate, saying, "Everybody is bummed and angry, but I have to try and give them something else lyrically to base their life around other than just pure hate. We all grow up, we all learn to hate. You look into a child's eyes and you want to instill something positive, something that can get them through that." The band would get into a legal battle with Insane Clown Posse, who dropped Coal Chamber from their tour in the late 90s. This would result in manager Sharon Osbourne confronting ICP on Howard Stern's radio show, and I've done a whole video on this feud, the link is down below. By the early 2000s, Sharon Osbourne would step down as the group's manager, and Coal Chamber would sign with another company named Left Bank, which represented the likes of Motley Crue and Blondie. By the time they recorded their third album, Dark Days, in 2001, Coal Chamber still had yet to reach an audience that their peers, including Korn and the Deftones, had. Dez would tell MTV about the band's thoughts going into the record, saying, "We want to take a chance. Rock and roll is still a little bit watered down right now. We want to take a chance and do something really raw, even with the artwork and everything. We were going to do no liner notes, black cover, black everything. I don't think we went back, we went forward. We thought, if this is going on now, what's going on next? We wanted to make an album that we can play live, and we can do this whole record live," he'd say. The band's choice in producer was also a gamble, as they enlisted Ross Hograth, whose past clients included everyone from R.E.M. to Jewel and John Mellencamp. Considering all the band had gone through up until this point, the themes on the record hit close to home. In particular, the track Empty Jar, Dez would tell MTV what the song was about, saying, "We came home and our finances had not been taken care of by anyone. When you're hungry and you're missing $1 million, you have to write about it. Mine is the empty jar. What you see isn't always what you believe. People see me pull up in a town car because the record label just drove me to an interview, and they don't understand the struggle the musicians usually have. Somewhere down the line, we weren't thinking about the business. We are now," he'd say. Dark Days would be released in May of 2002, and during the tour to support the album, internal tensions would rise. Fafara and Rascon would come to blows on stage during their Jägermeister tour stop in Lubbock, Texas. And 4 songs into their set, Rascon would hit Fafara on the head with his guitar, resulting in the frontman walking off stage and telling the crowd, and I quote, "This is the last Coal Chamber show ever." The band tried to keep playing, but drummer Mike Cox destroyed his kit, ending the concert. Coal Chamber also failed to show up at their next tour stop in Oklahoma City, which led fans to speculate the authenticity of the statement. Even though a spokesman for the band at the time claimed that they weren't breaking up and still had planned shows, the band would call it quits in 2003 when Fafara went on to form Devil Driver the following year. Then in 2011, despite an earlier statement by Dez that Coal Chamber's breakup was permanent, the band reunited. Meigs would tell Schecter guitarist how it happened, recalling, "Well, after many years of being broken apart, Dez called me to get the band back together. It took years after that to really gel and form a bond together again. A lot of hard work and soul searching. It just felt right after so many years to make music and tour again. Fully organic in that sense. It wasn't about the money for me, it was about doing it right," he'd say. Coal Chamber would reform just in time for the Soundwave Festival in Australia, and Dez recalled to Louder Sound how it led to new music, saying, "We go to Soundwave and come out in front of 60,000 people, and you hear everybody singing Loco. I was shocked. At first I thought, okay, this reunion is going to happen because A, I never wanted to live with regret, and B, when you hear 60,000 people singing Loco, you think, what the F?" Following several more high-profile festival performances in the next few years, the band signed a new recording deal with Napalm Records. Then in late 2014, they began work on their comeback album Rivals, enlisting the help of Mark Lewis, who had previously worked with Dez's current band Devil Driver as a producer and engineer. Rivals would be released in May of 2015, and much like Dark Days, it would peak at number 1 in various countries, this time in France and Germany, while also placing highly on the top Heatseekers chart in America. But by the same token, tensions would overtake the band and once again facilitate their breakup. Dez would tell Blunt Magazine in 2016, "We had a massive draw, we were a massive presence all over the radio. It was just that inward, all the members had problems I didn't want to deal with anymore, so I left." By 2020, during an interview with Louder Sound, Dez would reveal, and I quote, "I'm not going to say no to a new Coal Chamber album," while going on to explain that the relationship with the members of his former outfit were still good, but everybody was busy with their own projects. Today, Dez prioritizes Devil Driver while also running a surf business, as well as a new management agency he's formed with his wife to find and develop new talent. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.